They even put faucets on the bottom of them, and sometimes they just sit outside like here. This is a painting I did of Sigig to give the idea of how absolutely wild everything is when somebody has spotted a whale. And here everyone's running out. They're running out with their oars, with their floats, with all their gear to go get that whale. This is the Safety Roadhouse, which is, I think, was about 20 miles outside of Nome, maybe a little further. Anyhow, it has since then burnt down. When I saw it in its later days, but still operating, it was just one huge mess. Just absolutely, the outside was absolutely outrageously messy. The reason I painted it was because here was this sign that said, "Keep Alaska clean." Some people scraping a seal hides. Una Laclete, and this little dog's name is Nikita. And he's the only dog in town that wasn't a husky. And I wondered how he survived the winter, probably inside, I would think. I never paint pictures of something that I haven't seen, personally, unless it happens to be a legend. I really enjoy painting legends because you can use your imagination so much. But briefly, this is a story about a woman who turns into a whale and marries the whale in the background. In Eskimo legends, people can turn into animals and just as readily turn from an animal into a person. So these two were very happily married. Here's another legend about a gull and a raven fighting over a piece of meat. This woman is checking her float because it has a leak in it, and she does it just the way we used to do with inner tubes on car tires. Pretty soon she saw the bubbles come up and was able to establish where the leak was. This is an island in the Aleutians. There are many, many islands up there, and they're all covered with nothing but beautiful grass. Taking a break at Cheekok. People are also drying their fish. Another coffee break. One woman with curlers in her hair. Well, this is a cemetery at Sandpoint in the Aleutian Islands. The church at Nanilchik on the Kenai Peninsula. In the background, I think, is Mount Augustine, the one that erupted. This is at Unalaska, and I was sitting in a house across the way and watching this man paint this house blue across the street. And when it came lunchtime, he painted on the wall, "Happy Birthday, Ike," and then took off for lunch. And I guess when he's coming back, he'll paint the whole thing blue. These people are coming out of a steam bath. Steam baths are very popular up north. This woman is mending her nets. This is Unalaska. There's a very fine Russian church there. Oh, this cat wasn't interested in eating the fish, but he was interested in keeping the birds off the fish. The cemetery at St. George Island in the Pribilofs. This was a derelict boat at Homer. And some people were picnicking in front of it, but in the background, those cliffs, you see the black lines through it, that's all coal deposits. And the people at Homer actually get out there with shovels and get that coal and burn it in their stoves. On my trip down the Yukon River, we did not stop, but we went by Pilot Point, and there on the hill was a tiny little white spot, and I said, "What is that?" And somebody said, "It's a huge statue of Saint Fatima." And so that so intrigued me that I painted her quite a bit larger than she was. This is a sweat house. They build a big fire in it, and they kind of crawl in it because they're very tiny. And people just sweat happily in there, which is a way of cleaning yourself, you know, really. These are 3 miners who own all these buildings. It's a family, and including this building. And they hydraulically mine gold. The name of the town they're in is Flat, F-L-A-T. Do you know St. Nicholas Russian Orthodox Church? This is where I walk my dogs every day. It's very close to my house. It's in a slide area, and there's an old cook stove in the foreground that has been there for years, and they finally hauled it off. Also in the same area, there's a meadow up there that in every May people can usually spot a bear or 2, and these people are looking for bears. Well, I walked by this little house many a times. I liked the strange colors it was painted, and I always heard a dog barking, and one day I saw the dog, and that prompted me to do the painting. It's my neighbor Jay Crondell on his roof shoveling off the snow, and I sketched this from my bedroom window. It's a Star Hill. This man was sluicing for gold on the beach across the channel from Juneau. The first sunny day on Star Hill, some of my neighbors got up on their roof with a guitar and sang and played songs, and a bongo drum. These are 3 legislators coming back from lunch, but in the background is the family shoe repair store, and the shoe repair man made this lovely statue of his wife out of a log, and the wife has a cat on her head. And these legislators were not in the least bit interested in that. They were too much caught up in their business affairs. This painting was done from a brass stencil that the cannerers used to use to stencil the names on their wooden boxes of canned salmon. Once in a while in Teneke, itinerant missionaries come to town for a service, and one day I was outside picking berries, and a woman came along and she said, "Are you going to the service, Rie?" And I said, "No, I don't think so." And she said, "Well, everybody has a little sin in them." And so I thought I'd better go. Well, I'm glad I did, because I was able to sketch the musicians, and they were singing, "Are you washed in the blood of the Lamb?" I went to an American Legion auxiliary funeral. A friend of mine had died, and it was a very strange funeral. One woman stood near the podium and held up the Alaska flag, and the other woman gave a sermon. And so I didn't sketch on the spot, but I really eyed the whole thing carefully and quickly sketched it and then painted it when I got home. Blue Moon Cafe in Teneke, and the owner, Rosie, is watering her plants. This man seems to be fixing his crab pots, and that's my dog lying down there, doing nothing. This is a funeral at Teneke, And the man who owned that house in the background had died. They had his ashes, and they threw out the ashes in the water, and then they crumpled the plastic bag and threw it in the water as well. That made me so mad. This also is Teneke at low tide, obviously, because there's no water under these houses, and people hang up their laundry under their houses quite frequently to avoid the rain. But of course they have to remember to take it in before the next high tide. There are a number of very small hot springs around Teneke, and there are several right in front of my cabin, and at least they appear at low tide. And you can actually go down there and wash your dishes in the nice hot water. These men are fixing their crab pots, getting ready for the season. My neighbor put his boat up in his yard during the winter, and when I told him I was sketching it, he said, "Oh." He said, "Oh, we were afraid that the neighbors would think it was such an ugly old boat to store up in the neighborhood here." And I said, "Oh no, it's wonderful." So he was very pleased that his boat was liked instead of considered an eyesore. This painting I did last year when I took a trip down the Yukon River on a freighter. We stopped at numerous villages. I did this sketch in Galena, where we also stopped, and this woman was along the river picking up driftwood for her cook stove. From my house, I can see the Russian Orthodox Church down below and many parts of the old city. Juneau is an incredibly beautiful place with its active waterfront, narrow streets, and staircases and colorful locals. I do the sketches outside in pen and ink, taking many color notes, and then when I come inside to my studio, I start painting what I have sketched. Now, for instance, this painting, I sketched that outside. No way could I paint that outside in the extreme cold that we had that day. What I just about always do is before I apply painting, after I've taken some paint off of my palette, out of my palette, and before I actually put it on the painting, I usually make a little mark on the side here to make sure that it's exactly the color I want. And it shows better on this painting, where I've done a lot of color samples. And of course, when it's framed, that disappears. You know, once in a while I have a deep blue here, and then from that I make it into a lighter blue by adding water. And so once in a while, by mistake, I stick my brush in the darker blue when I really want it in the lighter blue. So that would be a disaster on a painting. So then it's really important to make these little color samples here to make sure that I don't do something dumb. Demi, this is a painting I finished just the other day. It's called Ski Lesson. And I sketched it a few weeks ago up on the mountain. It was very cold up there, but it was really worth the time going up there because I'm happy with the results. During my years in Alaska, I've lived in a variety of small Alaskan villages, including prospecting and mining camps. My paintings reflect an interest in the day-to-day activities of village life, such as whaling, fishing, berry picking, children at play, as well as my love of folklore and legends. While I find much to paint in and around Juneau, the majority of my material comes from visits to far-flung corners of Alaska. I return from trips to remote locations like King Island in the Bering Sea, where I taught school, with hundreds of sketches that provide material for future paintings. My aim is always to capture the village the way it is today. Alaska is a super place to live, friendly people, yummy seafood, and lots of sketching and painting possibilities. I'm here to stay.